jealous billionaire's brother got envious and tried everything possible to destroy him. A tale of betrayal, revenge, and unexpected love in the cutthroat world of wealth and power. The night my brother tried to kill me was the same night I realized I'd been blind my entire life. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another story that I just had to share with you today. I'm so excited you're here with me right now. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. How's your day going? I hope you're doing well and settling in for this wild ride I'm about to take you on. Have you subscribed to my channel yet? If not, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now because trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next in this series of incredible stories. I still remember the exact moment everything changed. The crystal champagne flute slipped from my fingers, shattering against the marble floor of my penthouse as I read the text message, "Check your brother's offshore accounts." My name is Alexander Kane, and at 36, I'd built Kane Industries into a $47 billion empire. What I didn't know was that my own flesh and blood, my younger brother Daniel, had been systematically working to destroy everything I'd built. The bitter taste of betrayal filled my mouth as I scrolled through the financial records someone had anonymously sent me. Hundreds of millions siphoned away. Shell companies. Falsified documents. All leading back to Daniel. "Sir, is everything all right?" My security chief appeared at my side, his hand instinctively moving toward his concealed weapon. I couldn't answer him. Not when the floor beneath my feet seemed to be crumbling away. Not when the brother I'd raised after our parents died, the brother I'd given everything to, had just revealed himself as my greatest enemy. What I didn't realize then was that Daniel's betrayal was just the beginning. That someone else had been pulling his strings all along. And that the woman I was about to meet, the one person who could help me unravel this conspiracy, would change my life in ways I never imagined. But how do you fight an enemy who knows all your secrets? And what happens when your heart begins to belong to someone who might be part of the plot against you? The morning after discovering Daniel's betrayal, I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse, watching Manhattan awaken beneath me. The city that had witnessed my rise from nothing to everything now felt like a stranger. "Your 8 a.m. is here, Mr. Kane," my assistant's voice came through the intercom. I straightened my tie, burying the turmoil beneath the mask I'd perfected over years of boardroom battles. "Send her in." The woman who walked through my door wasn't what I expected. Olivia Stark, the financial forensics specialist recommended by my legal team, moved with quiet confidence, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, intelligent eyes assessing me with clinical precision. "Mr. Kane," she extended her hand. Her grip was firm, professional. "I understand you're dealing with a sensitive situation." That's putting it mildly. I gestured for her to sit. "My brother has apparently been embezzling funds and sabotaging deals for years. I need to know how deep this goes." What I didn't tell her was how much this hurt. Daniel was more than my brother. He was the only family I had left. After our parents died in that car crash when I was 18, and he was just 14, I'd put my own dreams on hold. Worked 3 jobs to put him through the best schools. Promised our dying mother I'd always protect him. "Family betrayal is particularly difficult," Olivia said, as if reading my thoughts. Something in her tone made me look up. For a brief moment, her professional veneer slipped, revealing a flash of personal understanding. "You sound like you speak from experience," I said. She hesitated, then nodded slightly. "Let's just say I understand complicated family dynamics. But we're here to discuss your situation, not mine." As Olivia laid out her approach to tracking the money trail, I found myself studying her. There was something compelling about her methodical mind, the way she broke down complex financial schemes into clear patterns. But beneath her composed exterior, I sensed a carefully guarded pain. "The preliminary data suggests this isn't just about money," she said, sliding a tablet across my desk. "These patterns indicate someone trying to systematically undermine your company's position in key markets. The question is why." "Daniel has always lived in my shadow," I said, the words bitter on my tongue. "Growing up, he had everything I didn't, the best schools, opportunities, security. I made sure of it. But it was never enough. What I didn't say was how Daniel had changed after his wife left him 3 years ago. How the drinking had started. The erratic behavior. The increasingly hostile comments at family gatherings. Envy is a powerful motivator, Olivia agreed, but this level of sophisticated financial manipulation suggests something more. Or someone else involved. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan Wright, my oldest friend and COO. Emergency at the Singapore project. Need you ASAP. I have to cut this short, I told Olivia, already reaching for my jacket. How quickly can you get me answers? I'll need access to all your financial systems, she said, standing. And Mr. Kane? Trust no one until we know how far this goes. As she turned to leave, I called after her. Why did you take this case, Miss Stark? Your firm usually handles much larger clients. She paused at the door, something unreadable flickering across her face. Let's just say I have a particular interest in seeing justice done in family matters. After she left, I stood alone in my office, the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. Everything I'd built, the empire I'd created from nothing, the legacy I'd fought for was at risk. And the only person who might help me save it was a woman with secrets of her own. What I didn't know then was that Daniel wasn't acting alone. That the conspiracy against me reached into the highest levels of my company. And that before this was over, I would have to decide who to trust with not just my company, but my heart. If you're enjoying this journey so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below with your thoughts. The Singapore crisis turned out to be worse than I imagined. Our $2.3 billion development project, the crown jewel of Kane Industries' Asian expansion, was on the verge of collapse after key permits were mysteriously revoked overnight. This doesn't make sense, Ethan said, pacing my hotel suite as rain lashed against the windows. We had all the approvals locked down months ago. I loosened my tie, exhaustion settling into my bones after 20 hours of emergency meetings. Someone got to the regulatory officials. The question is who? My phone lit up with Olivia's name. 3 days since our meeting, and she'd been radio silent until now. Mr. Kane, her voice was tense when I answered. I need to see you immediately. Your company's security has been compromised at the highest level. I'm in Singapore dealing with. This can't wait, she cut me off. And it's not secure to discuss over the phone. I'm sending you coordinates. Come alone. The line went dead. Everything okay? Ethan asked, eyebrow raised. I hesitated. Trust no one, Olivia had said. But this was Ethan, my roommate from college, best man at my wedding, godfather to my daughter before the accident that took both her and my wife 5 years ago. If I couldn't trust him, I could trust no one. Just the forensic accountant with some questions, I lied smoothly. Listen, I need to handle something. Can you manage the minister meeting tomorrow? For hours later, my private jet touched down at a small airstrip outside New York. A black SUV waited on the tarmac, Olivia behind the wheel. Get in, she said, not bothering with pleasantries. We don't have much time. As we drove through the rain-slicked streets, she explained what she'd found. Your brother's been moving money through a complex network of shell companies, but he's not sophisticated enough to have set this up himself. Someone's been guiding him, using him as a front. Who? That's what I was trying to determine when I found this. She handed me a tablet. On the screen was security footage of my brother entering a restaurant, then sitting down across from Ethan. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. That's impossible. 2 days before the Singapore permits were revoked, Olivia said quietly. They met for 3 hours. Then your brother made a call to a number in Singapore. My mind raced, trying to reconcile the evidence with 20 years of friendship. There could be an explanation. There's more. She pulled into an abandoned warehouse district and stopped the car. Your brother's been accessing confidential files about your parents' accident. The mention of the accident sent ice through my veins. What? Why would he? A deafening crash interrupted as something slammed into the side of our SUV, sending it skidding across the wet pavement. Through the shattered window, I glimpsed another vehicle, deliberately ramming us. Get down! Olivia shouted, reaching beneath her seat and pulling out a handgun. You're armed. I yelled as the SUV was hit again, tipping precariously onto 2 wheels before crashing back down. Former FBI, she said grimly, checking the chamber. Mr. Kane, whoever's behind this just escalated from financial crimes to attempted murder. We need to move. Now, we scrambled out the passenger side as our attacker's vehicle circled for another hit. In the rain and darkness, I couldn't see their faces, just the gleam of headlights bearing down on us. Olivia fired 2 warning shots, buying us seconds to dash into the maze of warehouses. As we ran, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You should have stayed in Singapore, brother. Some secrets should stay buried. We ducked into an empty building, both of us soaked and breathing hard. You want to tell me what's really going on? I demanded, adrenaline and anger making my voice shake. Why does a forensic accountant carry a gun? Who are you really, Olivia Stark? In the dim light filtering through broken windows, her expression hardened. My real name is Olivia Reeves. 5 years ago, I was investigating a series of corporate sabotage cases when my partner was killed. The trail led to someone in your company, but the investigation was suddenly shut down from above. And you think I was involved? The accusation stung. I thought you might be, she admitted. Until I started digging into your finances. Someone's been systematically targeting you for years, Mr. Kane. And I believe it's the same person who killed my partner. Before I could respond, the warehouse door crashed open. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness as men in tactical gear swarmed in. Alexander Kane, a voice called out. This is the FBI. You're under arrest for securities fraud and conspiracy. Olivia grabbed my arm, her voice urgent in my ear. They're not FBI. Real agents would have identified the field office. It's a setup. As the fake agents closed in, Olivia pulled me toward a back exit. Do you trust me? She asked. Looking into her eyes, I made a decision that would change everything. Yes. Then run. We burst through the door into the rain, bullets splintering the frame behind us. In that moment, I knew my life would never be the same. My brother, my best friend, my company, everything I thought I knew was a lie. And my only ally was a woman with secrets of her own. Keep your head down, Olivia hissed as we crouched behind a dumpster, rain soaking through our clothes. The fake agents' flashlights swept across the alley, their footsteps splashing through puddles. We need to get to the authorities, I whispered. Olivia's laugh was bitter. And tell them what? That your brother and best friend are framing you? With what proof? The evidence I gathered isn't exactly obtained through legal channels. She had a point. In the eyes of the law, I was now a fugitive, a billionaire on the run, which would only make me look guiltier. I have a safe house, she said. But we need transportation. 20 minutes and one hot-wired car later, a skill Olivia explained away with a terse, FBI training covers various scenarios. We were heading upstate, the city lights fading behind us. Why would Daniel do this? I asked, more to myself than to her. I gave him everything. Sometimes that's exactly the problem, Olivia said, her eyes fixed on the road. Being given everything can breed resentment, especially if he felt he was living in your shadow. And Ethan? We've been friends for 20 years. She glanced at me. How much of Kane Industries does he own? 8%. I gave him equity when he joined as COO. And if something happened to you? The implication hit me like a physical blow. His shares would increase in value significantly if he took control. Dawn was breaking when we reached a remote cabin nestled in the Catskills. Inside was sparse, but functional, a far cry from my penthouse. Bathrooms through there if you want to clean up, Olivia said, checking the perimeter. There are some clothes that might fit you in the bedroom. Under the hot shower, I tried to process everything. In 24 hours, I'd gone from billionaire CEO to fugitive. My brother wanted me dead. My best friend had betrayed me. And I was placing my trust in a woman I barely knew. When I emerged, Olivia had changed into dry clothes, jeans, and a simple t-shirt that made her look younger, more vulnerable than the professional I'd met in my office. We need to talk strategy, she said, spreading files across a small table. These are copies of what I've found so far. As we pored over financial records and surveillance photos, a pattern emerged. The sabotage had started 3 years ago, right after Daniel's divorce. There's something else, Olivia said hesitantly. I found references to something called Project Phoenix and encrypted communications between Daniel and Ethan. Never heard of it. It seems to be connected to your parents' accident somehow. My parents' deaths had been straightforward, a car crash on a rainy night, much like this one. Or so I'd always believed. What aren't you telling me? I asked, noticing her hesitation. Olivia took a deep breath. The accident report had inconsistencies. Witness statements that didn't match. And the lead investigator was later found to have received a large cash deposit. The room seemed to tilt. Are you saying their deaths weren't an accident? I'm saying we need to look deeper. As night fell, exhaustion caught up with us. Olivia insisted I take the bedroom while she kept watch, but neither of us slept much. Around midnight, I found her on the porch, staring into the darkness. Why are you really helping me? I asked, sitting beside her. This goes beyond professional interest. In the moonlight, her profile was softer, the professional mask slipping. My partner who was killed, he was also my fiancé. James was investigating corruption that led back to someone powerful in your company's orbit. The night he died, he called to say he'd found something big. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. But I still don't understand why you'd risk everything to help me. She turned to face me, her eyes reflecting starlight. Because when I started investigating you, I found something unexpected. Every major charitable donation your company made, every scholarship program, every community initiative, they all had your personal involvement. Not PR stunts, but genuine efforts you kept out of the spotlight. That doesn't make me innocent. No, she agreed. But it made me look closer. And what I found was a man very different from what I expected. Something shifted between us in that moment, a connection forming that went beyond our circumstances. We should get some rest, she said, breaking the tension. Tomorrow we need to find out what Project Phoenix is. Morning brought a new complication. My face was plastered across every news channel. Billionaire CEO Alexander Kane wanted for questioning in massive fraud case. They're moving faster than I expected, Olivia said, watching the coverage. We need to. Her words cut off as her burner phone rang, a phone only one person had the number to. It's my contact, she said, answering cautiously. Her expression darkened as she listened. When? Are you sure? When she hung up, her face was grim. They've frozen all your assets. And there's a warrant out for my arrest too. Apparently I'm your accomplice. Who's they? That's what we need to find out. She grabbed her laptop. My contact says there's a Kane Industries executive meeting tonight at your Westchester estate. Ethan called it, apparently to discuss the leadership transition in light of your criminal activities. We need to be there, I said immediately. It's too dangerous. They'll have security everywhere. I built that house. I know ways and nobody else does. I met her gaze steadily. Olivia, if we're going to clear my name and find out what Project Phoenix is, this might be our only chance. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. But we do this my way. As we prepared to infiltrate my own home, I realized how much my trust in Olivia had grown. In just days, she'd become my only ally, my partner in this fight to reclaim my life. What I didn't know was that the meeting would reveal secrets far darker than I imagined, secrets that would force me to question everything I thought I knew about my family, my company, and the woman now standing beside me. Darkness cloaked us as we approached my Westchester estate from the wooded area behind the property. Rain had started again, providing cover for our movements, but soaking us to the skin. Security cameras cover most approaches, I whispered to Olivia as we crouched behind a stone wall. But there's a maintenance tunnel that leads to the wine cellar. I had it built as an emergency exit after I lost my family. The pain of mentioning my wife and daughter still felt raw, even 5 years later. Olivia's hand briefly touched mine, a gesture of understanding that somehow meant more than words. How do we access it? She asked, all business despite the moment of connection. There's an entrance disguised as a drainage pipe about 50 yards east. The code is my daughter's birthday. Navigating through mud and undergrowth, we found the hidden entrance. My fingers trembled slightly as I punched in the numbers 04-12, the date that had once been the happiest of my life, before it became the most painful. The tunnel was narrow and damp, forcing us to move in single file. Olivia went first, her FBI training evident in her silent, efficient movements. I followed, trying to ignore the claustrophobic press of concrete walls. "Why did you really build this tunnel?" she asked softly as we progressed. "It seems excessive, even for security." I hesitated, then decided on honesty. After the accident, I became paranoid. Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about what would happen if someone came for me too. "You suspected your family's accident wasn't random even then?" "Not consciously. But something never felt right." We reached the end of the tunnel, where a keypad secured the entrance to the wine cellar. As I reached to enter the code, Olivia grabbed my wrist. "Wait," she whispered. "Listen." Voices drifted down from above. The meeting had already started. We silently climbed the cellar stairs and paused at the door that led to a hidden panel in my study, adjacent to the main conference room. Unfortunate that Alexander has chosen to flee rather than face the allegations, Ethan's voice came through clearly. But the evidence of his embezzlement is irrefutable. The board has no choice but to remove him as CEO, another voice added, Harrison Wells, my company's legal counsel. The question is succession. As COO and second largest shareholder, the logical choice would be Ethan, someone suggested. Actually, Daniel's voice now, slick with false regret, Alexander's shares transfer to me in the event of his incapacitation. It's in our parents' will. My blood ran cold. That wasn't true. My parents' will had left everything divided equally between us. I have the documents here, Daniel continued, along with the final phase of Project Phoenix. Beside me, Olivia tensed. We needed to see those documents. I carefully slid open the hidden panel just enough to peer into my study. Through the partially open door to the conference room, I could see 8 people seated around the table, my executive team, board members, and Daniel. Ethan stood at the head of the table, a position that had always been mine. Project Phoenix represents the future of Kane Industries, Ethan was saying, activating a presentation on the wall screen. With Alexander gone, we can finally implement the full vision. The screen filled with technical schematics I recognized immediately, our proprietary clean energy technology, but modified in ways that made my stomach turn. They had weaponized it. The military applications alone will triple our valuation, Daniel added smugly. Something my brother was too squeamish to consider. And the ethical concerns? Asked Dr. Lydia Chin, our head of research. Will be managed, Ethan said dismissively. The point is, with Alexander out of the picture, Kane Industries can become what it was always meant to be. And what's that? Dr. Chin pressed. Daniel smiled coldly. The most powerful defense contractor in the world. Just as our father intended before his unfortunate accident. My father intended? That made no sense. My father had been a humanitarian, building Kane Industries on principles of sustainable development and ethical technology. I think we've heard enough, Olivia whispered. We need those Project Phoenix files. As we prepared to retreat and formulate a plan, the study door swung fully open. Ethan walked in alone, heading for my desk. Olivia and I froze behind the panel, barely breathing. Ethan opened my safe, using a combination he shouldn't have known, and removed a small metal box. When he left, we slipped into the study. Olivia immediately went to the computer while I examined the safe. He took something, I murmured. Something important. Alex, Olivia's voice was strange. You need to see this. On the screen was an old photograph, my parents with another couple I didn't recognize, all wearing lab coats. The file name, Phoenix_original_team.jpg. That's my father, I said, pointing. But I don't know the others. I do, Olivia said quietly. The man on the right is James's father. He was a physicist who supposedly died in a lab accident when James was a child. The pieces started falling into place with sickening clarity. Project Phoenix wasn't Ethan's idea. It was my father's. There's more, Olivia said, scrolling through files. Project Phoenix wasn't just about weapons. It was about... The study door burst open. Daniel stood there, a gun pointed directly at us. I thought I heard something, he said, a twisted smile forming. Hello, brother. You're just in time for the finale. Daniel, what have you done? I asked, positioning myself slightly in front of Olivia. What you never had the courage to do, he spat. Fulfill our father's legacy. Our father was a good man, I insisted. He would never have created weapons. Daniel's laugh was hollow. Is that what you think? Our father was developing the most advanced weapons system in history when his partner threatened to expose him. So he eliminated the problem. His partner. I echoed, a chill running through me. James Reeves' father, Olivia said, her voice tight with emotion. That's why you've been investigating, isn't it? Your fiancé was following his father's footsteps. Daniel's eyes narrowed as he looked at Olivia. You're the FBI agent. Ethan said you might be trouble. He gestured with the gun. Both of you move. The board should hear this confession before you have your tragic accident. As he marched us toward the conference room, I desperately tried to process what I'd learned. My father, the man I'd idolized, the humanitarian whose values had shaped my entire life, had been a weapons developer who murdered his partner? It's not true, I said to Daniel. You're lying. Am I? Daniel's eyes gleamed with malice. Why do you think I started digging? After my divorce, I found letters in Mother's old things. Letters that painted a very different picture of our perfect father. We entered the conference room, where everyone fell silent in shock at my appearance. Look who I found, Daniel announced. The prodigal CEO returns. Alexander. Ethan recovered quickly, his face a mask of concern. We've been worried. The authorities are looking everywhere for you. Drop the act, Ethan, I said coldly. I heard everything. Project Phoenix, the weapons, all of it. You don't understand, Ethan began, but Daniel cut him off. He knows about father, Daniel said. Might as well tell him the rest. Ethan's expression changed, the friendly mask falling away completely. Your father was a visionary, Alex. He understood that true power comes from military contracts. When his partner threatened to expose their work, he did what was necessary. By murdering him? Olivia demanded. By protecting the project, Ethan corrected smoothly. Just as your parents protected you from the truth, Alex. They died because they were finally ready to revive Phoenix, but your mother developed a conscience. She threatened to go public. The room spun around me. You're saying their accident was necessary, Daniel finished. Just as this is. He raised his gun again, but before he could fire, Olivia moved with startling speed, knocking his arm upward. The shot shattered the chandelier, plunging the room into chaos. In the confusion, I tackled Ethan, driven by rage and betrayal. You killed them. I shouted. My wife, my daughter, was that you too? Ethan's eyes widened in genuine surprise. What? No. Their deaths were an actual accident, Alex. I swear. Security guards burst in, weapons drawn. Olivia had Daniel pinned, his gun now in her hand. FBI, she shouted, though she no longer carried a badge. Everyone stay where you are. Dr. Chin had already called the real authorities. I've suspected something was wrong for months, she told me as police sirens wailed in the distance. The modifications to your father's technology, they weren't right. As real FBI agents arrived, Olivia's former colleagues, the truth spilled out in a flood of confessions and evidence. Project Phoenix had indeed been my father's creation, but the story was more complex than Daniel had portrayed. Your father did develop the technology with military applications, Olivia explained as we sat in the FBI field office hours later. But according to these files, he had a change of heart. He was working with James's father to convert the technology to peaceful purposes when his partner died. So my father didn't kill him? The evidence suggests it was an actual accident, she said gently. But your father took advantage of it to bury the weapons research. When Ethan discovered the original plans years later, he approached Daniel, knowing his resentment toward you would make him an easy ally. And my parents' accident? Olivia hesitated. The investigation is ongoing, but preliminary evidence supports Ethan's claim. Your mother discovered he was reviving Phoenix and threatened to expose him. He and Daniel arranged the crash. I closed my eyes, the weight of truth almost unbearable. My father had been flawed, not the saint I'd imagined, but not a murderer either. He'd tried to right his wrongs. My mother had died protecting his redemption. And I had built my life on principles that, ironically, honored what my father had ultimately chosen to become, not what he had been. What happens now? I asked, opening my eyes to find Olivia watching me with concern. Ethan and Daniel will face charges for murder, conspiracy, fraud. The list is long, she said. Kane Industries will need rebuilding. Your reputation will need clearing. And us. The question slipped out before I could stop it. Something softened in her expression. That depends on what you want, Alexander Kane. In that moment, surrounded by the wreckage of my old life, I realized I had a chance to build something new, something honest, something real. With a woman who had seen the worst truths about me and my family, and stayed anyway. I want to start over, I said simply. With the truth this time. Her hand found mine across the table. Then that's what we'll do. 6 weeks after the arrests of Daniel and Ethan, I stood in the empty boardroom of Kane Industries, watching rain streak down the windows. The company I'd built was in shambles, stock down 62%, contracts canceled, employees jumping ship. The SEC investigation is wrapping up, Olivia said, entering with a stack of files. They've confirmed you weren't involved in the fraud. Small comfort when the company is dying, I replied, not turning from the window. Though cleared of criminal wrongdoing, my reputation remained tarnished. The press had feasted on the scandal, the billionaire CEO whose brother and best friend had conspired against him, whose father had developed weapons technology. Every detail of my family's secrets had been splashed across headlines worldwide. The board meeting is in an hour, Olivia reminded me gently. They'll be expecting answers. In the weeks since the truth had come to light, Olivia had been my rock, helping with the investigation, working tirelessly to salvage what could be saved. Our relationship had evolved into something I couldn't quite define, deeper than friendship, charged with unspoken possibility, but constrained by the crisis surrounding us. I don't have answers, I admitted. Maybe Daniel was right about one thing. I'm not cut out for this world. That's not true, Olivia said firmly. You built this company on principles that matter. Principles don't pay employees or satisfy shareholders. The board meeting went as poorly as expected. Despite my exoneration, confidence in my leadership had been shattered. The reality is, Alexander, said Margaret Winters, our longest-serving board member, the Kane name is toxic right now. Investors are fleeing. We need to consider all options, including selling the company. Selling is admitting defeat, I argued. Give me 3 months to turn things around. With what strategy? Demanded Richard Patel, representing our largest institutional investor. Your clean energy division is hemorrhaging money, your brother destroyed our Asian partnerships, and your father's legacy casts a shadow over everything. My father's legacy, I repeated slowly, an idea forming. That's exactly what we need to address. I outlined a bold plan, publicly acknowledged the company's complicated history, release all the Phoenix files to demonstrate transparency, and pivot entirely to the clean energy technology my father had ultimately chosen over weapons. It's too risky, Richard objected. The market hates uncertainty. The market hates secrets more, I countered. We've been living with my father's secrets for decades. It's time for the truth. After heated debate, the board granted me 8 weeks to implement my plan, my last chance to save the company. As Olivia and I left the meeting, my phone rang with an unknown number. Mr. Kane, a distorted voice said when I answered. I have information about Project Phoenix you haven't discovered yet. Who is this? Someone who worked with your father. Meet me tonight at the old Kane laboratory in New Jersey. Come alone. The call disconnected. It's obviously a trap, Olivia said when I told her. Probably, I agreed. But what if there is more to Phoenix? Something that could help us. Then we go together, she insisted. I'm not letting you walk into danger alone. The abandoned laboratory had once been my father's private research facility, shut down after his death. As we approached the dilapidated building, rain pounding around us, I felt a sense of foreboding. Stay alert, Olivia murmured, her hand hovering near the weapon she now legally carried again, her FBI credentials provisionally reinstated after her role in exposing the conspiracy. The building was dark except for a single light glowing from what had been my father's office. We moved cautiously through corridors filled with dust-covered equipment. Alexander Kane, a voice called as we neared the office. I said come alone. An elderly man sat behind the desk, his face half hidden in shadow. When he stepped into the light, I gasped in recognition. It was the man from the photograph, James's father, who was supposed to be dead. Dr. Reeves? Olivia whispered, clearly shocked. Hello, Olivia, he said sadly. You look so much like your mother. My mother. Confusion crossed her face. How do you? Because she was my wife, he said simply. James was my son. And you, Olivia, are my daughter. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Olivia staggered slightly, her professional composure cracking. That's impossible, she said. My father died when I was a baby. My mother remarried. Your mother believed I was dead, Dr. Reeves explained. That was the only way to protect all of you from what Robert Kane and I had created. He turned to me. Your father wasn't a bad man, Alexander. We were young, brilliant, and arrogant. We thought we could control the power we were developing. Phoenix wasn't just weapons technology, I guessed. It was much more, he confirmed. We discovered a way to harness energy that could either power cities or destroy them. When we realized what we'd done, your father wanted to lock it away forever. I wanted to adapt it for peaceful purposes. So what happened? Olivia demanded, still reeling from the revelation about her parentage. Someone else found out, someone powerful who wanted the destructive potential. There was an explosion at the lab. Robert helped me fake my death to protect my family, while he stayed to guard the secrets. And now? I asked. Now that same someone has resurfaced, Dr. Reeves said grimly. They used your brother and Ethan, but they were just pawns. The real threat is still out there. Before he could elaborate, the windows exploded inward. Armed men in tactical gear swarmed the room. Olivia shoved me down, drawing her weapon, but we were hopelessly outnumbered. How touching, a new voice said as a figure entered. A family reunion. Senator Howard Maxwell stepped into the light, the powerful head of the Defense Committee, a man I'd dealt with many times. Maxwell, Dr. Reeves spat. I should have known. You've been a difficult man to find, Reeves, Maxwell said pleasantly. 30 years is a long game, but worth it for what Phoenix can deliver. The technology was destroyed, Dr. Reeves insisted. Not all of it, Maxwell smiled coldly. Your children have led me to the final pieces. With horror, I realized what he meant. My clean energy innovations combined with Olivia's forensic financial algorithms, together they could reconstruct the Phoenix Protocol. You orchestrated all of this, I said, understanding dawning. You pushed Daniel and Ethan to move against me. They needed little encouragement, Maxwell shrugged. Your brother's resentment and your friend's ambition made them perfect tools. I simply pointed them toward the Phoenix files and suggested how they might use them. And my parents? I demanded, rage building. An unfortunate necessity. Your mother discovered my involvement. His casual tone when discussing their murder made my blood boil. What do you want? Olivia asked, her voice steady despite everything. Your cooperation, Maxwell said. Both of you will help complete the Phoenix Protocol. Dr. Reeves will assist, of course. And if we refuse? I challenged. Maxwell's smile chilled me. Then Kane Industries will be destroyed completely. I control enough senators to ensure every government contract is cancelled. Every permit revoked. Every loan called in. Your employees will lose everything. He turned to Olivia. And as for you, Agent Reeves, or should I say Stark, your deception during the investigation gives me ample ammunition to destroy your career and possibly prosecute you. You're bluffing, she said, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Am I? He held up his phone, showing emails between Olivia and her FBI supervisor, emails revealing she had withheld information about her personal connection to the case. You have 24 hours to decide, Maxwell said. Cooperate, and you both walk away wealthy and free. Refuse. He let the threat hang in the air. As his men escorted us out, keeping us separated from Dr. Reeves, I caught Olivia's gaze. The pain and betrayal in her eyes cut deeper than anything. You knew, I said when we were alone in the car Maxwell's men had provided. You knew about your father, about the connection to my family. She stared out the window, her profile rigid with tension. I suspected. James had been investigating before he died. He found fragments, connections between our families. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't sure, she exploded, turning to face me. And because I needed to know the truth about what happened to James. He died investigating Phoenix, Alexander. He died because of what our fathers created. The realization that she had used me, had approached me initially not to help but to further her investigation, felt like a physical wound. So all of this, I gestured between us, was just part of your mission? Her expression softened slightly. It started that way, she admitted. But it became something else. Something real. How can I believe that now? The hurt in her eyes matched my own. You can't, I suppose. Just like I can't be sure you weren't keeping secrets too. We lapsed into painful silence as the car carried us back to the city. Everything we'd built between us, the trust, the connection, the possibility of something more, lay in ruins. At my penthouse, security increased by Maxwell's men under the guise of protection. We faced the impossible choice before us. We can't give him Phoenix, Olivia said, pacing the living room. The destructive potential is too great. And if we don't, thousands of innocent people suffer, I countered. My employees, their families. There has to be another way. But as morning approached with no solution, the weight of our situation became unbearable. We were trapped by Maxwell, by our father's legacy, and now by the secrets between us. I need some air, Olivia said finally, heading for the balcony. Alone in the vast penthouse that had once represented my success, I faced the darkest moment of my life. My company teetered on the brink of collapse. The woman I had begun to love didn't trust me, and I couldn't trust her. And now I was being forced to choose between protecting innocent lives and potentially unleashing a terrible weapon. As dawn broke over the city, I made my decision. I would give Maxwell what he wanted, or at least make him believe I had. It was the only way to buy time. When Olivia returned, her face was composed, all vulnerability hidden behind her professional mask. I've been thinking, she said formally. We need to contact Maxwell and tell him we'll cooperate. I was about to suggest the same thing, I replied, equally distant. We stood facing each other, two people connected by fate and family secrets, now divided by doubt and betrayal. Whatever had been growing between us seemed impossible now, a casualty of the darkness our fathers had created. For what it's worth, Olivia said softly, I never lied about what I felt. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Maxwell, demanding our answer. As I prepared to tell him we would cooperate, I caught Olivia's eye one last time. In that moment, something passed between us, a silent communication, a flicker of the connection we'd shared. And I realized that perhaps not everything was lost after all. We'll do it, I told Maxwell over the phone, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. But we have conditions. You're not in a position to make demands, Kane, Maxwell replied coldly. Actually, I am. The Phoenix Protocol requires both Olivia's algorithms and my energy conversion formulas. You need us both fully cooperative, not working under duress. A pause. What are your terms? First, Dr. Reeves remains unharmed. Second, we need 3 days, not 24 hours. And third, we work from my private lab at Kane Industries, where we have the necessary equipment. After some negotiation, Maxwell agreed, though he insisted his men would monitor us constantly. When I hung up, Olivia was watching me with a mixture of confusion and dawning understanding. You have a plan. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Maybe, but I need to know something first. I stepped closer, searching her eyes. Despite everything, the secrets, the lies, do you trust me? Not just professionally. Do you trust me with your life? The question hung between us, weighted with everything unsaid. For a long moment, she was silent, and I feared I'd lost her completely. Then she reached out, her fingers brushing mine, the first voluntary contact since our world had shattered. Yes, she said simply. I trust you, Alexander. Something broke open inside me at her words. Then we have a chance. That night, alone in my study with surveillance equipment disabled thanks to a signal jammer Olivia had concealed in her watch, apparently standard FBI issue, we spoke in whispers. Maxwell doesn't know exactly what Phoenix is, I explained. He knows it's powerful, but not how it works. We can use that. What are you suggesting? We give him a version of Phoenix, one that appears to work but has a fatal flaw we can exploit later. Olivia's eyes widened. That's incredibly risky. If he discovers the deception. It's our only play, I insisted. But to pull it off, we need help. The next morning, we arrived at my private lab at Kane Industries, Maxwell's men establishing a perimeter while we worked. Dr. Reeves was brought in, looking haggard but determined. I never wanted you involved in this, he told Olivia during a rare moment when they were allowed to speak privately. I pretended to work nearby, but could hear their conversation. Why didn't you ever contact me? She asked, the hurt of 30 years of abandonment in her voice. To protect you, he said simply. As long as everyone believed I was dead, you were safe. I watched you from afar, your graduation, your FBI Academy ceremony. I was always there in the shadows. And my mother? Did she ever know? No, he admitted. That was the greatest sacrifice, letting her believe I was gone forever. Their reunion was bittersweet, decades of loss impossible to reclaim in stolen moments under armed guard. But it seemed to give Olivia strength, a piece of herself recovered amidst the chaos. As we worked, I surreptitiously contacted trusted allies, Dr. Chen from research, Margaret Winters from the board, and surprisingly, Richard Patel, who despite his harsh words at the board meeting, had always respected my integrity. On the second day, Maxwell himself arrived to check our progress. Impressive, he said, examining the partial schematics we'd prepared. But I sense you're holding back. The final integration is complex, I explained. We need to ensure the energy containment will hold. Just make sure it does, he said menacingly. Remember what's at stake. After he left, Olivia approached me at the workstation, ostensibly to review calculations, but actually to whisper. My FBI contact came through. They're in position, but we need proof of Maxwell's involvement. We'll get it tomorrow, I promised. When we demonstrate the completed Phoenix protocol. That night, exhausted from the day's tension, we returned to my penthouse under guard. As we prepared for the final phase of our plan, the weight of what we were attempting pressed down on us. If this goes wrong, Olivia began. It won't, I said with more confidence than I felt. She studied me in the dim light of my living room, her professional mask slipping to reveal vulnerability beneath. When this is over, if we survive, what happens to us? The question caught me off guard. In the midst of fighting for our lives and the future of my company, I hadn't allowed myself to think beyond the next day. I don't know, I admitted. Too much has happened. Too many secrets. Yes, she agreed softly. But also something real. Something worth fighting for. She stepped closer, her hand coming to rest against my cheek. I didn't tell you everything at the beginning. That's true. I was looking for answers about James, about my past. But what I found was you, a man nothing like what I expected. A man I could. She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. I covered her hand with mine, turning to press a kiss against her palm. Whatever happens tomorrow, I said, know that meeting you changed everything. You made me face the truth about my family, about myself. You made me brave enough to fight instead of run. The kiss that followed was gentle at first, then deepening with the urgency of people who might not have tomorrow. For a few precious hours, we forgot about Phoenix, about Maxwell, about the impossible odds we faced. We were just a man and a woman finding solace in each other's arms, building something real amidst the ruins of our lives. Morning came too soon. As we prepared to leave for the lab, Olivia squeezed my hand one last time. Ready? I nodded. Ready. The lab was tense with anticipation when we arrived. Maxwell had brought additional men, clearly expecting the completed Phoenix protocol today. Senator Maxwell, I greeted him with forced cordiality. We're ready for the demonstration. Excellent, he said, eyes gleaming with anticipation. Show me. Dr. Reeves, Olivia, and I moved to the central workstation where we'd assembled the Phoenix device, or rather, our version of it. The small reactor hummed with energy, displays showing the integration of Olivia's algorithms with my energy conversion technology. Phoenix was originally designed to create a self-sustaining energy loop, Dr. Reeves explained, falling into his role. Unlimited power with minimal input. But with modifications, I continued, that energy can be directed and amplified. Weaponized, Maxwell said with satisfaction. Precisely, Olivia agreed, her tone professional despite her disgust. The targeting system uses my financial algorithms, repurposed to identify optimal energy distribution points. Maxwell leaned closer, examining the device. And it works? You've tested it. We're about to, I said, initiating the startup sequence. This demonstration will be at minimal power, just 2% capacity. Even that will be impressive. As the device powered up, lights dimmed throughout the lab, part of our planned effect. The reactor glowed blue, energy readings climbing steadily on the monitors. Containment stable, Olivia reported. Energy conversion at optimal levels. Targeting system online, I added. Focusing on the designated test material. A small metal sample in a containment field began to glow as energy from the Phoenix device concentrated on it. Maxwell watched, transfixed, as the metal first heated, then appeared to transform, changing color and composition before his eyes. Molecular restructuring, Dr. Reeves explained. At full power, Phoenix could do this to buildings, vehicles, even weapons systems. Or people, Maxwell said, his voice hushed with dark wonder. Yes, I confirmed, letting disgust show in my voice. That was always the military application that interested certain parties. The demonstration reached its peak, the metal sample now pulsing with energy. Then, right on cue, warning lights flashed. Containment fluctuation, Olivia called out. Energy levels becoming unstable. Shut it down, I ordered, adding just enough panic to my voice to be convincing. As the system powered down, Maxwell looked concerned, but still eager. What happened? A minor calibration issue, Dr. Reeves assured him. The principles are sound, as you saw. We just need to stabilize the containment field for higher power levels. How long will that take? Maxwell demanded. A few hours, I said. We'll need to recalibrate the entire system. Do it, he ordered. I have investors waiting for confirmation that Phoenix is viable. As he stepped away to make a call, Olivia leaned close to me. He took the bait. The recording system captured everything. What Maxwell didn't know was that our entire demonstration had been an elaborate fake, impressive visual effects hiding the fact that the Phoenix device was actually inert. The real work had happened behind the scenes, with Dr. Chin and my trusted team implementing the final phase of our plan. When Maxwell returned, I was ready. Before we continue, Senator, there's something you should know about Phoenix. His eyes narrowed. What's that? It was never meant to be a weapon, I said, my voice carrying through the lab. My father realized that too late. But I'm not making his mistake. I pressed a button on my console, and suddenly every screen in the lab changed, showing evidence of Maxwell's conspiracy. Financial transactions. Surveillance photos. The transcript of our conversation minutes earlier where he explicitly stated his intentions for Phoenix. What is this? He demanded, face contorting with rage. Insurance, I replied calmly. Everything you've done. The manipulation of my brother and Ethan, the murder of my parents, your plans for Phoenix, it's all being transmitted right now to the FBI, the Department of Justice, and select media outlets. You're bluffing, he snarled, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Am I? I nodded toward the windows, where FBI vehicles were now visible in the parking lot below. Your men have already been quietly replaced with federal agents. It's over, Maxwell. He lunged for his weapon, but Olivia was faster, her FBI training evident as she disarmed him with precise efficiency. Senator Howard Maxwell, she said formally as agents entered the lab, you're under arrest for conspiracy, extortion, and the murders of Robert and Eleanor Kane. As Maxwell was led away, shouting threats and denials, the tension that had held me rigid for days finally broke. I sagged against the workstation, exhaustion washing over me. Olivia was immediately at my side, her hand steady on my arm. We did it, she said softly. We did, I agreed, looking around at the lab where my father had once worked. But at what cost? Dr. Reeves approached, his eyes sad but proud. Your father would be proud, Alexander. You chose a different path than he did. A better one. In the aftermath, As FBI agents secured evidence and took statements, I found myself standing with Olivia and her father, three people connected by a legacy of secrets and now, perhaps, a future of truth. What happens now? Dr. Reeves asked. I looked at Olivia, finding strength in her steady gaze. Now we rebuild. Not just Kane Industries, but everything else that was broken. Her hand found mine, fingers intertwining. Together. The question contained worlds of meaning, professional collaboration, personal connection, the possibility of something deeper and more lasting. Together, I confirmed, feeling for the first time in weeks that the darkness was truly lifting. As dawn broke over the city the next day, I stood at the window of my office at Kane Industries, watching the sun illuminate a world that seemed somehow new. The road ahead would be challenging, rebuilding the company, restoring trust, creating something better from the ashes of the past. But I was no longer alone in that journey. And that made all the difference. 6 months after Maxwell's arrest, I stood at the podium in Kane Industries' main auditorium, facing shareholders, employees, and press. The company had survived barely, but today marked a new beginning. For decades, Kane Industries has been built on half-truths, I began, my voice carrying through the hushed room. Today, that changes. Today, we embrace complete transparency about our past and our future. The journey to this moment had been grueling. Maxwell's arrest had triggered investigations into every aspect of Kane Industries. His network of corrupt officials had been more extensive than we'd imagined, reaching into regulatory agencies, defense contractors, even foreign governments. Daniel and Ethan had both turned state's evidence, providing testimony against Maxwell in exchange for reduced sentences. The betrayal still stung, but I'd found a strange peace in finally understanding the full scope of their deception. Phoenix technology was originally conceived with destructive potential, I continued, acknowledging the murmurs that rippled through the audience. My father later recognized the moral implications and attempted to redirect it toward peaceful applications. Today, we complete that journey. I gestured to Dr. Reeves, who joined me at the podium. After 30 years in hiding, he had agreed to publicly reclaim his identity and work with Kane Industries to develop the beneficial aspects of Phoenix. Dr. William Reeves and I have spent the past 6 months reconfiguring the core Phoenix technology, I explained. What was once designed as a weapon has been transformed into something that can help millions. On the massive screen behind us, technical schematics appeared, the redesigned Phoenix system, now called Aurora. Aurora harnesses the same energy principles as Phoenix, but with crucial differences, Dr. Reeves explained. Instead of concentrating energy for destruction, it distributes it for creation. The demonstration that followed left the audience stunned. Aurora could provide clean energy to regions without infrastructure, purify contaminated water, even accelerate healing in damaged ecosystems. What Maxwell had seen as a weapon, we had reimagined as a tool for renewal. As the presentation concluded to thunderous applause, I felt a weight lifting, the burden of secrets my family had carried for generations. At the reception afterward, Olivia found me by the windows overlooking the city. She'd taken leave from the FBI to help rebuild Kane Industries, serving as our chief security officer while we implemented Aurora. Quite a triumph, she said, handing me a glass of champagne. Your father would be proud. Of both of us, I corrected, touching my glass to hers. This wouldn't have happened without you. She smiled, the expression warming her eyes in a way that still made my heart race. The past months had deepened our connection as we worked side by side, though we'd been careful to maintain professional boundaries in public. There's something I need to tell you, she said, her expression turning serious. I've been offered a permanent position with the FBI's new Technology Ethics Division. They want me to head it. My heart sank. In Washington? She nodded. They're creating the division specifically to monitor technologies like Aurora, ensuring they're not weaponized or misused. It's a perfect fit for you, I said, forcing enthusiasm I didn't feel. When do they need your answer? I told them I needed to discuss it with my partner first, she said, her eyes holding mine. The word partner hung between us, its meaning deliberately ambiguous. We'd been professional partners, certainly. Personal partners in many ways. But we'd never defined what we were becoming to each other, too focused on survival and rebuilding. Before I could respond, Margaret Winters approached, her expression urgent. Alexander, Richard Patel is here with the Meridian Group investors. They're ready to make their decision about the funding. I'll be right there, I promised, then turned back to Olivia. We'll continue this conversation later? She nodded, squeezing my hand briefly before I was pulled away into the crowd of potential investors who could secure Kane Industries' future. Hours later, after securing the crucial investment that would fund Aurora's global implementation, I returned to my penthouse exhausted but triumphant. To my surprise, Olivia was waiting, sitting on my balcony with 2 glasses of wine. I thought we should finish our conversation, she said as I joined her. Away from interruptions. The city lights sparkled below us, a tapestry of human connection and possibility. For a moment, we sat in comfortable silence, both gathering thoughts. I want you to take the FBI position, I said finally. It's important work, and you're the perfect person for it. She studied me over her wine glass. Even though it means I'd be in Washington? Even then, I confirmed, though the thought of her leaving created a hollow feeling in my chest. You've put your career on hold for months to help me rebuild. I won't ask you to sacrifice more. What if it's not a sacrifice? She asked quietly. What if there are things more important than career advancement? My heart quickened. Like what? Like this, she gestured between us. Whatever this is becoming. The moment stretched between us, filled with possibility. In the months since Maxwell's arrest, we'd grown closer than I'd ever been to anyone. Working together, supporting each other through the darkest moments, celebrating small victories. But we'd both been hesitant to define it, perhaps afraid to risk the partnership that had saved us both. What do you want it to be? I asked, setting down my wine glass. She met my gaze directly, the vulnerability in her eyes matched by determination. Something real. Something lasting. Something worth choosing over everything else. I moved closer, taking her hand in mine. I've been afraid to say it, I admit it. After everything that happened, the betrayals, the lies, I wasn't sure I could trust what I was feeling. And now? Now I know, I said simply. I love you, Olivia. I think I have since that night in the rain when you saved my life and challenged everything I thought I knew. Her smile was radiant as she leaned toward me. I love you too. Enough to turn down Washington. No, I said firmly. I won't let you make that choice. But maybe there's another solution. The next morning, I called an emergency board meeting. The directors were still riding the high of yesterday's successful presentation and funding announcement, making my proposal easier to sell. Kane Industries needs to establish a Washington office, I explained. With Aurora technology being implemented globally, we need stronger government relations and regulatory compliance. And who would head this office? Richard Patel asked, though his knowing smile suggested he already understood my motivation. I would, I said, causing a stir around the table. At least part-time. Dr. Reeves can oversee the technical implementation of Aurora here, with Dr. Chin managing daily operations. After discussion and negotiation, the board approved my plan. I would split my time between New York and Washington, maintaining leadership of Kane Industries while establishing our presence in the capital, conveniently close to the FBI's new Technology Ethics Division. When I told Olivia, her response was a mixture of surprise and joy. You do that? Restructure your entire company? For us to have a chance? Yes, I said simply. The past year has taught me what matters. Kane Industries is important, but not at the expense of everything else. 2 weeks later, as we prepared for her move to Washington and my part-time relocation, a final obstacle emerged. Dr. Reeves came to my office, his expression grave. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Someone accessed the original Phoenix files. My blood ran cold. Maxwell. No, he's still in custody. This was someone with deep technical knowledge and access to our systems. A hacker? I don't think so, Dr. Reeves said hesitantly. The access pattern suggests someone familiar with the technology. Someone who knew exactly what they were looking for. Before we could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the building. Security monitors showed a breach in the main laboratory where the Aurora prototype was housed. Lock down the building, I ordered, already moving toward the lab with Dr. Reeves following. When we reached the lab floor, we found security guards unconscious and the doors to the main research area sealed from the inside. Through the glass walls, I could see a figure working at the Aurora controls. No, Dr. Reeves whispered in horror. It can't be. The figure turned, and I felt shock ripple through me. Dr. Lydia Chen, my head of research, one of the few people I'd trusted with Aurora's development, was systematically modifying the prototype. Override the door lock, I commanded the security system. Authorization, Kane Alpha 1. The doors slid open, and we rushed in. Dr. Chen looked up calmly, as if she'd been expecting us. Alexander, she greeted me. I was wondering when you'd figure it out. Figure what out? I demanded. What are you doing, Lydia? Finishing what was started 30 years ago, she replied, continuing to work as she spoke. The true purpose of Phoenix. Dr. Reeves stepped forward, his face pale. You're Eleanor's student, he said with sudden recognition. From Cambridge. Chen smiled coldly. Very good, Dr. Reeves. Yes, I studied under Eleanor Kane before her unfortunate accident. She shared her concerns about Phoenix with me, her brilliant, trusted protégé. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. You've been playing the long game, I realized. Getting close to my company, gaining my trust. For years, she confirmed. Maxwell was useful but ultimately too power-hungry and careless. I needed Aurora developed before I could adapt it back to its original purpose. Which is? I asked, though I feared I knew the answer. Power, she said simply. Not destruction. Maxwell never understood the true potential. Phoenix wasn't just a weapon. It was control over energy itself. Whoever controls energy controls everything. As she spoke, the Aurora prototype began to pulse with an ominous blue light, similar to our fake demonstration months ago, but terrifyingly real. You can't contain that much energy, Dr. Reeves warned. The modifications you've made, they'll create a cascade effect. That's exactly what I'm counting on, Chen replied. A demonstration of power that will make governments and corporations worldwide recognize the new reality. They'll have no choice but to negotiate on my terms. I edged closer, trying to reach the emergency shutdown. And how many people will die in this demonstration? Casualties are inevitable in revolution, she said dismissively. The building's evacuation protocol has already been triggered. Most will survive. Most isn't good enough, I said, lunging for the controls. Chen was prepared, swinging a metal tool that caught me across the temple. Pain exploded through my head as I stumbled back. Alexander. Dr. Reeves moved to help me, but Chen had already activated a containment field that separated us from the Aurora core. You have about 3 minutes before the energy reaches critical mass, she informed us calmly. Just enough time to appreciate the culmination of your father's work. Through my dazed vision, I saw the Aurora core pulsing faster, energy readings climbing toward levels the system was never designed to handle. If it reached critical mass, the explosion would destroy not just the building, but several city blocks. There has to be a way to stop it, I said, struggling to my feet. Dr. Reeves was already examining the containment field. The field is drawing power from the main system. If we could overload it. The emergency generators, I realized. They're on a separate circuit. If we reroute power through them in reverse, it might create enough of a surge to disrupt the containment field, he finished. As we worked frantically to access the building's power systems, the lab doors burst open again. Olivia rushed in, weapon drawn. FBI. Step away from the controls, Dr. Chen. Chen merely smiled. Agent Stark. Or is it Reeves now? You're too late. The containment field, I called to Olivia. We need to overload it. Understanding immediately, Olivia moved to the auxiliary power controls while keeping her weapon trained on Chen. Tell me what to do. Working together, we initiated the power reroute. The lights flickered throughout the lab as energy surged through circuits never designed for such load. It's not enough, Dr. Reeves said desperately as the containment field wavered but held. Chen laughed. You can't stop it. In 2 minutes, Aurora will reach critical mass. Unless we give it somewhere else to discharge, I said suddenly, an idea forming. The building's lightning rod system. It's connected to ground dampeners designed to handle massive electrical surges. If we could connect Aurora to that system, Olivia said, catching on, it could safely discharge the energy into the ground. The connection would have to be manual, Dr. Reeves pointed out. Someone would need to be inside the containment field. Our eyes met, and I knew what I had to do. Keep working on the field, I told them. I need a 30-second window. Alexander, no, Olivia protested. The energy levels inside that field are survivable for brief exposure, I finished. Probably. Before she could argue further, I positioned myself at the edge of the containment field. On my mark, surge the power again. As Dr. Reeves and Olivia prepared the power surge, I turned to Chin, who watched with clinical interest. You miscalculated, Lydia. My father didn't abandon Phoenix because he was weak. He did it because he was strong enough to walk away from power. A philosophical difference we'll never resolve, she replied coolly. No, I shouted. The power surge hit, and the containment field flickered momentarily. I dove through the opening, rolling to my feet inside the field as it re-established behind me. The energy within was overwhelming, like standing in the heart of a lightning storm. My skin tingled painfully as I fought my way toward the Aurora core. Alexander. Olivia's voice was barely audible through the field and the roaring energy. I reached the manual override panel, fingers burning as I input the commands to connect Aurora to the building's grounding system. Warning messages flashed across the screen. The connection would create a massive power surge that could fry the entire system. And anyone standing next to it. With one final look at Olivia, her face desperate with fear and love, I activated the override. Energy exploded from the Aurora core, using my body as a conductor as it sought the path of least resistance to ground. Pain unlike anything I'd ever experienced tore through me as electricity coursed through every cell. Then darkness. I awoke to the steady beep of hospital monitors and the sensation of someone holding my hand. Opening my eyes took monumental effort, but I was rewarded with the sight of Olivia asleep in a chair beside my bed, her fingers intertwined with mine. She hasn't left your side in 3 days, Dr. Reeves said softly from the other side of the room. 3 days. My voice was a rasp. You've been unconscious since the Aurora incident, he explained, moving closer. The doctors weren't sure you'd wake up at all. The electrical surge through your system was substantial. Memories flooded back, Chin, the sabotaged Aurora, the desperate plan to ground the energy. Chin, I asked. In custody, Olivia answered, her eyes opening at the sound of my voice. The relief in her expression was palpable as she leaned forward. Alexander, you're awake. Apparently, I managed a weak smile. What happened after? After you nearly killed yourself saving half of Manhattan, she finished, her tone mixing relief with lingering anger. The grounding system worked. Aurora discharged safely. The building sustained damage, but no lives were lost. Except nearly yours, Dr. Reeves added pointedly. The doctors later explained that I'd suffered severe electrical trauma. My recovery would be lengthy, with possible lasting effects to my nervous system. But I was alive, something they described as miraculous given the energy levels I'd been exposed to. In the weeks that followed, as I slowly regained strength, Kane Industries underwent its final transformation. The Aurora technology was placed under international oversight, with Dr. Reeves leading a multinational team to develop its beneficial applications. Chen's network of conspirators was identified and removed from positions of influence. And Olivia and I finally had the conversation we'd started the night before everything changed. The FBI still wants me in Washington, she said one evening as we sat in the hospital garden during my first approved excursion outside. And I still want to accept. You should, I agreed. It's important work. But things have changed, she continued. Your recovery will take months. The doctors say you shouldn't travel extensively. I took her hand, still marveling at how natural it felt. So we adapt. I'll work remotely while I recover. The board has already approved Richard as interim CEO. And us, she asked, the question containing all the complexity of our journey together. Us is the one thing I'm certain about, I said simply. Everything else, Kane Industries, Aurora, my health, that's all negotiable. But you and me? That's non-negotiable. Her smile was like sunrise after the longest night. Even if it means a long-distance relationship for a while? Even then, I assured her. Though I was thinking of something more permanent eventually. Her eyebrow raised. Are you proposing Alexander Kane? Not yet, I smiled. When I do, it won't be in a hospital garden with me barely able to stand. But I am saying that whatever comes next, I want us to face it together. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against mine. Together sounds perfect. 3 months later, my recovery had progressed enough for limited travel. The board had restructured Kane Industries with Richard Patel as CEO and me as executive chairman, a position that allowed me to guide the company's vision while delegating day-to-day operations. Aurora technology, now under international oversight, was being implemented in disaster zones and developing regions, providing clean energy and environmental restoration. Dr. Reeves had become the public face of the initiative, his brilliant mind finally free to work in the open after decades in hiding. And Olivia had taken the position in Washington, heading the FBI's Technology Ethics Division with a mandate to prevent technologies like Phoenix from being weaponized again. On a crisp autumn evening, I stood on the balcony of my new Georgetown townhouse, purchased to be near Olivia while maintaining my New York connections, watching the sunset paint the Capitol in gold and crimson. Penny for your thoughts, Olivia said, joining me with 2 glasses of wine. Just reflecting on how much has changed in a year, I replied, accepting the glass. From discovering Daniel's betrayal to rebuilding my company to falling in love with the woman who was investigating me. She laughed, the sound warming me more than the wine. Not exactly a conventional love story. No, I agreed. But it's ours. We'd settled into a rhythm that worked, her at the FBI, me splitting time between Washington and New York, both of us committed to preventing another Phoenix situation while building something meaningful together. I have something for you, I said, reaching into my pocket. It's not what you might think, but it is important. I handed her a small velvet box. Inside wasn't a ring, but a key. A key? She questioned. To the new Kane Foundation headquarters, I explained. We break ground next month, right here in D.C. Her eyes widened with understanding. The foundation you mentioned, to support ethical technology development? I nodded. With a special focus on energy solutions for underserved communities. The board approved it unanimously. And I hesitated, suddenly nervous. I was hoping you might consider joining the advisory board. Your perspective would be invaluable. Alexander, she said carefully, are you creating an entire foundation just to have an excuse to be in Washington more often? Not entirely, I smiled. Though that's definitely a benefit. The foundation represents what I want Kane Industries to stand for going forward: transparency, ethics, and using power responsibly. She turned the key over in her hand, her expression thoughtful. Lessons hard won. The hardest, I agreed. But worth it. As we stood together watching the last light fade from the sky, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for most of my life. The legacy of secrets my father had left behind had nearly destroyed everything: my company, my reputation, even my life. But from those ashes, something stronger had emerged. There's something else I've been meaning to tell you, Olivia said, breaking the comfortable silence. My father has been offered a teaching position at MIT. He's considering taking it. That's wonderful, I said sincerely. After 30 years in hiding, he deserves to reclaim his life. He wants to establish a scholarship, she continued, in memory of my mother and James, for students committed to ethical technology development. The Kane Foundation would be honored to help fund it, I offered immediately. She smiled, leaning against me as the first stars appeared. You know, for someone who nearly lost everything, you seem remarkably content. I lost what I thought mattered, I corrected, and found what actually does. 6 months later, on the anniversary of the Aurora incident, we gathered for the official opening of the Kane Foundation headquarters. Dr. Reeves was there, looking younger somehow, unburdened by secrets. Richard Patel represented Kane Industries, which was thriving under his leadership. Even Margaret Winters had flown in from London for the occasion. As I prepared to address the assembled guests, I caught Olivia's eye in the front row. She nodded encouragingly, the diamond ring on her left hand catching the light, a recent addition following a proper proposal on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial at sunrise. A year ago, I stood before another audience and promised transparency about Kane Industries' past. Today, I want to focus on the future, not just of my company, but of how we approach power and responsibility in all its forms. I spoke about the Foundation's mission, about ethical technology development, about second chances and redemption. But mostly, I spoke about trust, how it's earned, how easily it's broken, and how precious it is when rebuilt. The greatest lesson I've learned, I concluded, is that true power isn't found in technology or wealth or influence. It's found in the courage to choose what's right over what's expedient, in the strength to face hard truths, and in the wisdom to recognize that no achievement matters without people to share it with. As applause filled the room, I stepped away from the podium and joined Olivia, taking her hand in mine. "Nice speech," she whispered. "Very inspirational." "I meant every word," I replied, especially the part about sharing achievements. Later that evening, as we walked along the Potomac, the city lights reflecting on the water, Olivia stopped suddenly. "I've been thinking about something," she said. "The FBI has offered me a promotion, heading up a new international division focused on cross-border technology threats." "That's incredible," I said. "You deserve it." "It would mean more travel," she warned. "Possibly some extended assignments overseas." I smiled, pulling her closer. "Then it's a good thing your fiancé has a private jet and flexible working arrangements." She laughed, the sound echoing across the water. "We make quite the pair, don't we? The reformed billionaire and the FBI agent." "I prefer to think of us as two people who found each other against impossible odds," I said, "and who are building something better than either of us could alone." As we continued our walk, planning our future together, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. From the night my brother's betrayal had shattered my world to this moment of perfect contentment, the path had been neither straight nor easy. But standing beside the woman who had challenged me, saved me, and ultimately loved me, I knew with absolute certainty that every painful step had led exactly where I was meant to be. The jealousy and betrayal that had nearly destroyed me had instead forced me to rebuild, not just my company, but myself. And in that rebuilding, I had found something I never expected, a love powerful enough to heal even the deepest wounds. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia asked, noticing my contemplative silence. I smiled, squeezing her hand. "Just that sometimes, the things meant to break us become the foundation for something stronger. Like Phoenix becoming Aurora," she observed. "Exactly like that," I agreed. Destruction transformed into creation. Darkness into light. As we walked toward our future together, I carried with me the lessons of the past, not as a burden, but as wisdom hard-won and precious. The jealousy that had driven my brother, the secrets my father had kept, the betrayals that had nearly cost me everything, all had led to this moment of clarity and purpose. And standing beside the woman who had seen me at my worst and loved me anyway, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them as we had faced everything else. Together. 2 years later, I stood at the window of our home in the Virginia countryside, watching Olivia in the garden below. She was kneeling beside a small boy with dark curls, guiding his hands as they planted sunflower seeds in the rich spring soil. James William Kane, named for the grandfather he would never meet and the uncle whose memory deserved honor, had come into our lives 6 months ago. A miracle neither of us had dared hope for after doctors warned that my injuries from the Aurora incident might prevent us from having children. "Look, Daddy," he called, spotting me at the window. "We're planting sunshine." "That's exactly what you're doing," I called back, my heart full to bursting. So much had changed in the years since Maxwell's arrest and Chen's failed attempt to weaponize Aurora. Kane Industries had flourished under Richard's leadership, with quarterly profits now directed towards sustainable development and ethical technology initiatives. The Kane Foundation had expanded globally, with offices in 20 countries and programs that had already improved millions of lives. Dr. Reeves had become a celebrated figure in scientific circles, his work on Aurora technology earning him the recognition denied for decades. More importantly, he had reclaimed his role as Olivia's father, the years of separation slowly healing through shared meals, long conversations, and now, time spent with his grandson. Olivia's career had soared as well. Her international division had become a model for cross-agency cooperation, preventing at least 3 major technology threats before they materialized. She worked part-time now, balancing her commitment to global security with her role as a mother, a balance she navigated with the same determination and grace she brought to everything. And me? I had found peace I never thought possible. The nightmares about my parents' deaths had faded. The pain of Daniel's betrayal had dulled to a sad acceptance. I even visited him occasionally in prison. Our relationship forever changed, but not entirely lost. My health had mostly recovered, though occasional tremors in my left hand remained a permanent reminder of the energy that had coursed through my body. The doctors called it a miracle that I'd survived it all. I called it a second chance I was determined not to waste. As I watched my wife and son in the garden, I thought about legacy, not the kind built of steel and glass and stock prices, but the kind woven through choices and relationships and love passed down through generations. My father had left a complicated legacy, his brilliant mind creating something with potential for both tremendous good and terrible harm. He had tried, too late, to ensure it was used for good. My mother had died protecting that choice. Now it was my turn to shape what would be passed to the next generation. Not Phoenix or Aurora or Kane Industries, but something far more valuable, the understanding that true power lies not in what you control, but in what you create. Not in what you accumulate, but in what you give. Not in being feared, but in being loved. I joined my family in the garden, kneeling beside them in the warm earth. "Daddy, help," James asked, offering me a sunflower seed with soil-covered fingers. "Always," I promised, accepting the tiny seed that contained so much potential. As we planted together, Olivia's hand found mine beneath the soil, our fingers intertwining just as our lives had. Her smile held all the warmth of the spring sunshine, all the promise of the seeds we were planting, all the love that had transformed both our lives. "Happy?" she asked simply. I looked at our son, his face alight with concentration as he carefully covered each seed. At our home, built not for show but for comfort and connection. At the woman beside me who had seen through my wealth and power to the person beneath, and loved that person enough to fight for him when he couldn't fight for himself. "Completely," I answered, and meant it with every fiber of my being. Later that evening, as we sat on the porch watching fireflies dance across the lawn, James asleep against my chest, Olivia rested her head on my shoulder. "I got a call from Richard today," she said. "The Aurora installation in Sudan is operational. 20,000 people have clean water and electricity for the first time." Pride swelled in my chest, not for what I had built, but for what we had all created together. "That's the 14th installation this year?" 15th, she corrected. "They finished the one in Myanmar early." I pressed a kiss to her temple. "Your father's modifications to the distribution system made all the difference." "Our family seems to have a knack for energy solutions," she observed with a smile. "Though I prefer this version to the original Phoenix concept." "As do I agreed fervently. As night deepened around us, stars appearing one by one in the velvet sky, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. From the night I'd discovered my brother's betrayal to this moment of perfect peace, the path had been marked by both terrible darkness and extraordinary light. The jealousy that had driven Daniel to destroy me had instead set me free from illusions. The secrets my father had kept had ultimately led to truth. The woman sent to investigate me had become the love of my life. And the technology meant for destruction had been transformed into a force for healing. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia asked, noticing my contemplative silence. "Transformation," I replied. "How the things meant to break us often become the things that save us, if we let them." She nodded, understanding as she always did. "Like a seed breaking open to grow into something beautiful." "Exactly like that," I agreed, looking down at our sleeping son, the most miraculous transformation of all. As we sat together in the gathering darkness, I felt a sense of completion that had nothing to do with wealth or power or success as the world defined it. My journey from betrayed billionaire to the man I was now, husband, father, steward of my father's redeemed legacy, had taught me what truly mattered. Not empire building or revenge or even redemption, but love. Love that sees clearly yet chooses to stay. Love that holds accountable yet offers grace. Love that transforms jealousy into gratitude, betrayal into wisdom, and broken trust into something stronger than before. In the end, the greatest victory wasn't defeating those who had tried to destroy me. It wasn't rebuilding Kane Industries or creating the foundation or even developing Aurora technology. It was this, a quiet evening with the family I cherished, planting seeds both literal and figurative for a future brighter than the past. "I love you," I whispered to Olivia as the first star appeared above us. Her hand found mine in the gathering darkness, a connection that had weathered the worst storms and emerged unbreakable. "I love you too," she replied. "Always." And in that simple exchange was everything I had ever truly wanted, and everything I had finally found. Not in spite of the jealousy and betrayal that had nearly destroyed me, but because of it. For without that darkness, I might never have discovered the light that now illuminated every corner of my life. A light no power, no wealth, no success could ever match. A light called love. Wow, what an incredible journey. I hope you enjoyed this story of betrayal, redemption, and finding love in the most unexpected places. If you connected with Alexander and Olivia's story, please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment letting me know your favorite part. Did you expect all those twists and turns? What did you think of the ending? I read every comment and would love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, thank you so much for joining me on this storytelling adventure.